Hello, welcome to the Hello Judges podcast, sponsored by Tales of Harrogate. I'm Will Woodhouse-Banks and I love coffee competitions, both competing in them and talking about them. This episode is also sponsored by Raw Material. Raw Material is a social enterprise coffee importer that maximises producer profits through the coffee you buy. You can check them out on rawmaterial.coffee. My guest this week is Matt North. Matt has been in the competition scene for a long time and is an experienced international head judge. I really enjoyed my chat with Matt, and I hope you do too. So please stir 3 times to the bottom of the cup, and please enjoy. And also, I've never done a podcast before, so we'll just have a bit of a chat.
I think that's it. Like, that is the best ones, isn't it? I mean, leave all this bit in. This is good. This is good preamble. We love it. This is what it is, isn't it? You have a little natter and then edit it and make me sound stupid.
Yeah, that's the aim of the game, right?
Nice.
Also, I should make it clear, I'm not sat in a real supermarket, and I only endorse some of the products behind me.
I am sat in a real basement and do sell many of the products on that shelf there behind me.
Excellent.
Call me for green, yeah, kids.
So, Matt North, sales, logistics, and quality control at Raw Material. Is that correct?
Everything.
A bit of everything.
Yeah, we're still pretty small. So any role within any territory invariably involves a little bit of everything. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, excellent. And renowned international coffee judge, founder of Full Court Press Cafe and Roastery.
Yeah.
And had an amazing run at Cup Tasters, which you then abandoned before the semi-finals.
Well, I like to the best people should go out on top, is what I'm trying to say. Like, when you've peaked, know when you've peaked, and 4 out of 4 in 122, it wasn't going to get better than that. Plus,
well, imagine it's a cold morning in Glasgow, and you turn up to the Cup Tasters at the Glasgow Coffee Festival. Matt North's on first, and he just blows everyone out the water. Why bother trying?
I forgot that. I was talking about this with one of the guys at FCP who's competing, and I forgot that was literally the first round of the whole event.
Yeah,
that was the first event, first table, and I'm just like, yeah, it's all right, done it now, bye. And then I did the final with my first to Columbia with Raw Material. So I'm like, yeah, I've got to do the AGM and stuff, which is a shame, but also kind of cool.
Yeah, pretty cool. I'd say so.
I'm out. Drop the spoon. See you later, guys.
So I posted on Instagram last night that we were doing this, and lots of people sent loads of questions for you.
Okay.
None are really spicy, but I think we've got a good chunk of things to find out about you and about competition.
Cool. Let's see where this goes then.
Yeah, I mean, let's get warmed up. What coffee are you drinking at home at the moment?
At home, I currently have a Timor-Leste Rhyme washed from Redemption. It's one of the coffees that was sent back to me by one of our customers. Just try basically in the home. It's nice to get gifts like that from people.
Yeah, nice. Okay, how did you get into judging coffee competitions?
Via being involved in competitions. So I actually volunteered and ran the competitions first. I've been around since 2007 probably, in adjunct to competition, because I worked for a sponsor then, Beyond the Bean. I was helping at local heats and being around that, and then started running it and being involved in like the committee as is in 2000 and say hello, Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
In 2015, and that gave me a really insight into being involved in the judging room. I thought, well, as I'm going to be involved running the events, I ought to know about judging, and I got myself familiar with the rules, learned pretty quickly on the fly how judging teams ran, how deliberations went, so that when it came to my time, like, okay, I'm no longer full-time involved in running competitions, I can get back into judging. And I've done a little bit of judging whilst doing the competition, like running them, but you can't really do both. It's too tricky. Like they're both full-time jobs. Then really got into judging full-time, pretty much from there.
Excellent. Yeah, because I remember, I think it was 2017 was my first competition, and you were national coordinator then.
Yeah, that was the year that Dale won, and we did the finals in Bristol.
Oh no, I tell a lie.
Nope.
Then it was 2018 when I competed, because I think was it Josh Tarlow won that year?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, nice. So I've got a quote somebody sent to me about you. His focus and attention when judging is scary good. It almost unnerved me a bit when I competed.
Oh, harsh. I mean, I kind of think I take that as a compliment.
Yeah, well, you said scary good.
Because you've got to, and this is, I think we're going to get fairly deep on this thing quite quickly, I think. There's a lot of time and effort that goes into these routines.
Yeah, definitely.
You know yourself, the amount of time and effort and work that is put in, and you have to repay that. If you're turning up and judging and you're not focusing, you're not paying attention, you're not doing your best to do the job that you're volunteering to do, but to the best of your ability, then why are you there? So yeah, I try and focus as hard as I can on what I need to do. That sometimes leaves me with a grumpy focusing face, which you're going to get caught on camera. I try and smile as much as possible, but you're going to get caught on camera with like an intense laser stare where you're watching something which you don't want to miss it. But yeah, it's interesting. Tech barista is always the one for that. When you're watching where the cups go, that's like this game of 3-card Monty in your head. You're watching it go around, and your brain is trying to focus. You're intensely watching, and it just becomes a bit. Everything shuts off. And you become super focused on it. So.
Excellent. Well, I suppose like tying into that a little bit, do you have any tips for baristas, specifically in the barista competition, how to make judging them easier? Like, have you got any sort of tips for that?
I think, yeah, as always, I think I saw this on that was Capo who put this as one of the questions, was like RTR, which is like the rules are there to help you understand them as you're laying out in your blog posts. Things like the technical points, you can look at that and you can help judges out and make their lives easier by doing very simple things. Like we always enjoy when somebody lays out a really nice table so we can see everything quite clearly. When they show us the portafilters, these sort of things are really helpful. So generally all the keys you need to help a judge are in the rules, because that will then lead you to a good understanding of where points are going to be scored.
Great. So in terms thinking about points being scored, if you could remove or add anything to the score sheet, what would it be?
If I could remove or add anything to the score sheet in barista?
Yes.
In barista. I'd probably remove crema.
Yeah.
I know it's a point. But I don't believe personally it adds anything to the drink. I think it's one of the final holdovers from when the competition was more traditional espresso based. And you can certainly have coffees that are of varying profiles or lengths of shot that are better with less crema. It would also possibly open up the ability to have different cups for service for espresso that don't necessarily hold on to a crema, which I think would be sensorially interesting. I'd remove that rule. If I could add a rule, I think I'd want to see the presentation and the impact rules tweaks, like to take more account of the concept. Because a lot of people do spend a lot of time putting a concept together for a routine, and there isn't really anywhere to judge that. It just comes under general impression. there's nothing in it. And this is definitely a subjective thing to judge, but then most of judging is there's no really way to judge the performance. And that would, as I saw in a Trent Rollins blog post the other day, which if you haven't checked out, go and read that. There is this disconnect between what people see and the scores that are given. So we don't really have a performance score per se. And that'd be great if when you watch a great performance, you know it's a great performance. And the metrics for assessing that we're given as judges in overall performance and everything are maybe a bit out of date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Like we're looking for an ambassador for specialty coffee, and like, A, what does that mean? And B, isn't everyone who's competing going to be it's that sort of thing.
Yeah, I almost feel like the rules need a bit of a glossary at the end, like the definition of an ambassador, the definition of certain words in the eyes of.
I think you know what, that's a great idea, especially when you come and look at things in say Sig Drink, synergy and creativity. Like we have definite ideas of how those are approached, but that should be as part of a communicative tool for the competitors to understand what the judges need. It's like a rule book. There is no rule book accessible for either judges and or thing. There are a set of rules, but it's very different. Like it's not, there's no glossary, like you said, to really lean into this communication.
Yeah. So I was going to bring up the Trent Rollins blog a bit later on.
Carry on.
But since you brought it up, I mean, I don't really have a sort of pointed question about it. I was just going to say, do you have anything in particular you'd like to say in relation to the recent posts by, Coach Federico Bolanos and Judge Trent Rollins? Do you have any sort of takes on what you've read?
Yeah, it's deep. Like it's very difficult to comment on the frustration of a competitor or a coach in the aftermath because no one's happy.
Yeah,
I often say to the judging teams I'm with that we're in the business of disappointing a lot of people. Ostensibly, we're going to make one person happy, and everyone else is going to be disappointed. And you have to understand that when you go into judging. You have to understand that as much as you're there to award and discover a winner, you're also there to disappoint a whole lot of people because your scores are going to do that, and you have to be able to live with that.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult, especially in the aftermath, to take this because people need a space to vent. What I find difficult, and why I shared both posts, and I think there's a lot of people who have commented on all these posts, is that, and this might come into an overall topic of communication, there's not really much in the way of communication between the judging fraternity and the competitive fraternity. I think I've frozen. Is that it's not supposed to be a judgment of the coffee. So comments that it's impossible for a coffee this good to be average are understandable. The frustration is understandable. But it's also, to some degree, a misinterpretation of what we're trying to do. We're trying to judge the skill of that person brewing it. So it's very possible to take a very good coffee and make it very badly. So the scale it's a 2 for all coffee ever. It's in the concept of that competition where the best coffees in the world are being bought. This coffee was judged to have been made to this level.
Yes.
And that's it. That's the only context and box you can see it in. You can't see it really in any other box. I'm just going to turn my camera off and back on to see if I can get it to come back on again. Yeah. So I understand these frustrations. I understand where they're coming from. I really liked Trent's post in how he approached that, how he was very open about the problems with it. I think it's very possible to love something and to be involved something and still think it has value, but also critique it.
Yeah.
And so like these critiques from the competitors are very valid. These critiques from the judges are very valid. And the fact that we now have some sort of communication going on between the two is of benefit, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
It's
Opening
not.
up that conversation is always good.
Yeah, yeah, and and it should also be said that it's not a disrespect from the judges. It's not a disrespect of the competitors. It's not a disrespect of the producers. It's not a disrespect of the coffee if the score seems low. It's not. We're asked to do a job, and we have to assess these things as best as we can, trying, hopefully, and we all hear about situations where this isn't the case, where without bias, without too much subjectivity, with an open mind, and as calibrated as we possibly can be. Where this breaks down is there is I feel we're going to segue into a question we're going to come to later on. There is a distinct time lag between the understanding of what the judges might be looking for and then the implication of that by competitors. Competitors can only react in the aftermath. Like you've probably already had ideas about what you want to change for next year if you're competing again. The great problem is by the time you come out to compete again, what we're being told to look for and how we assess things as judges may well have already changed.
Yeah.
And it's not like we're operating in bad faith. It's just a quirk of the system, and that's one thing Trent was getting at, is that system, to communicate that and get what judges looking for out ahead of time, ahead of the next cycle, rather than during a judging a competition cycle, isn't there and needs to be there. And it is an issue, and it is somewhat disrespectful from the organizing body that they haven't got this in place. And I say that as somebody who's been involved on a local level and kind of understands to some degree what's going on.
It's tricky, isn't it? Because it's a huge event, mostly run by unpaid volunteers, and there's a lot of moving parts to align. And it's not simple.
No, and this comes back to I get asked constantly. I've been involved in competitions about why isn't alt mix on there, and you're like, you have to understand that these things can't change like that. It's not like a sport where at the beginning of the season you can tell all the coaches and all the clubs, this is what's going to happen on how we're going to assess the rules this year, and then you have professional referees and you tell the referees what to do, and they do it. It's their job. It's not like that. To do that wholesale would basically be me rewriting the whole competition. So if people have been paying attention to the milk beverage rules, they've been changing bit by bit by bit by bit by bit by bit by bit to get to the point where we can just go, oh, bam, alt milks. But when you get there, you're going to have to come up with a way of calibrating every judge on the planet. How many different kinds of oat milks? What does a harmonious and balance of milk and coffee and the sweetness of the milk mean for oat, for almond, for pea, for hemp? God forbid we get hemp. For all these other alternatives that we're going to come in, and how many of them are going to be legal? How are we going to have sponsors where you have to use a sponsored one? How's that going to work? It's a myriad of difficult questions. So it's not as easy as just do oat milk, so it'll be fine. It's not.
Yeah, I should probably provide a little bit of context to the previous conversation. If people weren't aware about the post by Federico Bolanos, he had posted saying, train for months and months, bring the best coffee in the world, hire expensive coaches, and come on the world stage and score a 2 on their espresso. It's just not possible. And then there was essentially a well-written retort to that by a judge who'd served this year and a few years previously. So just a bit of context for anyone who didn't know what on earth we were talking about.
Yeah, one lens to look that through is at this level, it basically becomes a sport. And how in every sport in every country on the planet, people spend an awful lot of money and fail. It's always going to be the way, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just the nature
yeah.
of the beast. So I had a question from one of our viewers. Is it damaging? Yeah, do you think it's damaging that competitors keep calling foul? So, for example, Sasha Sestich at the Australian Brewers Cup, and his rant about how the judges essentially didn't understand his brewer, how they didn't understand the rules, or, for example, Patrick Rolfe saying he didn't win the Barista Championship because he didn't take a trendy coffee. Do you think those sort of statements are damaging? Do you think they're useful? Do you have any thoughts about those?
I think they fall under the same category as Federico. They are frustrated comments in the moment in a society that is attuned now to instant feedback and places to give instant opinion.
Yeah.
And I think that there's no other way to take it. Do I agree with each of them? No, I don't agree with them. I have heard enough about what went on at the Ascars from various sources to know that it potentially wasn't handled very well on either side. I do have issues with saying that you deliberately took a coffee you didn't know was going to win to make a statement. And Patrick obviously wanted to win. He went there wanting to win and took a coffee he thought could win. Because if you go in there deliberately setting yourself up to fail to make a statement, then let someone else win. Because you're not competing in good faith there. You're not competing with the goal to win. You're trying to make a statement, and that's fine. But it's you're not competing in good faith. You're denying somebody who may well have done anything they can to win a chance to win.
Yeah.
Because then we get on to the world of a dangerous world of what coffees are allowed to compete, the elitism around that, the gatekeeping of what is right or what is wrong, issues of purity. How do we even know what a washed coffee is these days? Where does the line start and stop with that? I'm going to segue. We'll get back to it. One of my favorite things about this is how quickly things change. Like Sasa and CM, nobody knew what CM is. No one really still knows what carbonic maceration is truly. It's become a trademark. So it then becomes disingenuous to complain about other producers who are not telling you what's going on in their coffee. It's a trademark. It's a proprietary process, and you can think of a myriad of different products that we happily buy, and we have no idea what the actual recipe is. Coca-Cola, legendarily Coca-Cola, the recipe is locked in a vault in Atlanta or something. 3 people know it. I think the post mix is made in 2 different plants, so one plant can't know the full recipe, then to another plant to mix the 2 parts of that mix together to make a second post mix, then that's sent to the bottling plant. So to protect the proprietary recipe that is a trade secret. So why is this an issue when it comes to coffee? Especially if it's about judging the best barista in some ways. I don't know. It's a strange one. But we have digressed and we're back. Oh no, I've lost Will. Oh, he's back.
Oh, hello. I think might have been the internet cutting out on my end there.
It happens. Did you get all of that?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
No, I got you right at the part where the 2 post-mix products met.
Okay, yeah. So this is obviously Coke. They make 2 post-mix syrups. as far as I know, they then send it to another plant where they mix them together to make the actual post mix. That then goes off to the bottling plant to be combined with water, carbonation forms thing. So, and we have KFC, 11 secret spices, yada yada yada. So we have these proprietary secret recipes that are they're marketing points, and we're fine with this in so many other avenues of our purchasing life. PG tips. God knows what goes in PG tips. Yorkshire tea. I don't know what goes in Yorkshire tea. I just trust it. You know? Yet we come to have issues with this when it comes to coffee for some reason. And I don't get it.
Yeah, fair enough. We started off down that adventure back in the day with blends with mystery ingredients, right? Nobody knew what was in the espresso blend.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, exactly.
For years, that
it's
was
a
fine.
protected recipe for our espresso blend. Exactly. So it's a bit, I find it a bit disingenuous when people start complaining about that to some degree. But we've digressed.
Yeah, great. I mean, we could talk about some less heavy, like slightly lighter stuff now, if you like.
Yeah, let's mix a few in. Let's keep it going.
Yeah. Let's see. How do you think competitions are beneficial to the industry?
They are one of the only true mixing pots now for a lot of countries. If you think about those kinds of competition, how many people interact with each other and they help each other. When you're at a competition, yes, you're competing, but it's a big room of people who are there to learn from each other. Like even down to latte art throwdowns, which is essentially a competition. They're the times the people in our community come together, especially at a barista level, and they happen at trade shows. So people are there. It's a time for that networking to happen in person. And I think they're crucial for that. And then for the people who are involved in competing, then it's learning. You're becoming better at your craft. You're having to learn more about coffee and the world of coffee to compete. And if you're judging, it's a real eye-opener. You cannot just focus then on, oh, I like this one. You have to start to look at coffee in a different way. It's working together as a team. It's understanding to work under pressure and really taking that information under pressure. So I think everyone who's involved in competition is learning in some way and sharing that knowledge in some way. And it's quite rare in our industry at the moment as we're maturing.
Yeah. Have you got any advice that you'd give to first-time competitors or people that are on the fence about competing? Do you think like the social aspect of it is a huge benefit?
I think it is. I think there are competitions you can enter that will not cost you an awful lot of money. You should certainly enter a competition without wanting to win it first time, unless you have the resources just to devote all of your time to it, because it's an incredibly resource intensive proposition. But yeah, you're going to learn a ton. You're going to learn an enormous amount just by the training, just by the practice. Like the guy Lawrence who's doing the cup tasters, he's learning an enormous amount just by tasting more and more coffees that he would not have done normally. He wouldn't have been going through this. So he's accelerating his sensory ability in such a short space of time in that training. So yeah, just do it for that, if nothing else. And it's the same if you want to come judge. Do the same thing. You're going to taste a lot of coffee. You're going to understand different ways of thinking and assessing coffee and the nomenclature that is used for it. And it's going to be a massive help in your career going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I did judges calibration, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago now. And I very quickly learned that my sensory skills were not what I thought they were. And even like just going to that made me suddenly realize what I needed to work on, how to work on it. And, it's definitely, if you're thinking about judging, you should definitely sign up to do the calibration.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. It's super useful.
Do you have a memorable routine that you love? Like, have you got a favorite, whether it be barista or brewers or both, if you want to do? It doesn't have to be your favorite ever.
Dale's winning routine. No, Dale's winning routine from the UK. I will always have a soft spot for, because I've known him for so many years, and to see him finally break through was wonderful. Estelle's routine with the air hostess and the trolley that she made, and the airline themed one, I thought was really interesting and innovative and fun to watch.
Yeah.
I love Sierra's routine from the Brewers Cup this year, especially the finals presentation. I thought was fantastic. And then I'm trying to think of other routines I've seen recently. I loved Rama's routine from the Brewers Cup this year in Denmark. That was really enjoyable to watch and just be a part of. Yeah, they all, after trade secret, after a while, you forget them. You just
fair enough.
People say, how was my routine? And you're like, I've seen 14 today. Yeah, you're really good. Ask me in 2 days' time, and I will probably have already made space in my head for the next ones I'm going to do. You know, this is why we practice on making really good notes on the sheet, because you're going to need to have something to jog your memory and remind you, because you see so many routines, so many. It's really difficult to remember them all.
Yeah. So with them being difficult, as a judge, is there any like specific moments in any routine that like really sort of you weren't expecting, that you really enjoyed, that surprised you? Like, I think we've all seen somebody whip out a bit of dry ice and, you know, whatever. That's not so much of a surprise anymore.
No, and it comes in the I think now it comes in the little things. Judging Rasmus in Denmark when he said his coffee was grown in Copenhagen. That was literally like, what? That was literally what? That was a fun little moment. Seeing your little drink splitter, the little innovations like that, you're like, oh, cool, yeah. And I think over the years they've been harder and harder to find, because so much has already been done.
Yeah,
I think when everyone first saw the OCD as it was, they were like, what the hell is that? When they first saw the EK43 being used, you're like, nah, what's this? So like, there's these little innovations as they come along, and now these things are almost commonplace. I think it's really difficult. Ben Putt, when he used the backpack machine, mental. Yeah, I was like, all right, what's this doing here? There's loads of little moments like that. I think who did I see once made a tartan on stage, and I'm like, what's this about? One of the judges I'm with in Europe quite regularly, he tells a story about the time that they got served a cig drink that was actually salmon with an espresso balsamic drizzle.
No.
I'm like, yes, well done. And it's like brilliant. I love it.
Unreal.
Oh, and somebody in Vienna brought a string trio as the music.
Wow. Is that allowed? Yes. Does that not count as furniture? Do you not get a DQ for that?
No, I think it was bringing your own music. They weren't on stage. They were just playing. It was like, all right, fair, loving it, killing it, go for
Amazing. Do you have anything you're optimistic about for the future in competitions?
The side tells you no. Okay. I am genuinely worried about the future of competition, especially in Europe. I know of so many countries where turnout is incredibly low, where in some countries you genuinely worry that when the national coordinator stops doing it, will the chapter run?
Yeah.
Many countries in Eastern Europe just don't have a chapter. because nobody's picked it up. And I see that happening in a lot of countries. Essentially, like we are, I think, in the UK, an outlier in the amount of people that apply. But what's forgotten is how much work that took, and it's a generational thing. Like at some point, the people who are competing now will stop competing, and if it's not available for people to and accessible people to join in, the numbers will dwindle. We won't fill out things within 5 minutes. You have to think, like you have to shepherd this thing. Like the days of, well, like the first time I did cup tasters, they were literally pulling people off the floor at the show. Come and compete. I know of multiple places around Europe where they barely make the 6 you need, and in some cases they don't. And then the people have signed up and dropped out, so you're having finals with 3 or 4 people. You know,
wow.
And that worries me. That does worry me. I'm optimistic that there will be some changes to rules that will and changes to this communication hub that will make it a little easier for both competitors and judges. But I'm not optimistic about the future. Really, I think changes to the structure of the competition do need to happen to make it viable long term.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I was going to ask you a different question after that, but I feel like we've gone down like a bit of a somber route and it's feeling quite sad, and I don't want to just jump on the sad wagon. So maybe I'll ask you like.
Well, I mean, I ask me whatever you want. Keep on with it. I mean, I'm just trying to be realistic here. I'm just trying to be realistic.
That's what I want from you. So.
Yeah, I remember. We used to have 2 people for cup tasters. No, 2 people for SIGs over here, and now it fills. You know, we're blessed that we could fill out competitions fast, but that is not guaranteed. It's not.
Yeah.
And the competition structure isn't helping people to get involved.
Yeah. Like even in New Zealand, for example, I think in the New Zealand Barista Championships this year, there were like 6 to 8 competitors in the whole competition.
And this is one of the countries that is seen as one of the OG of specialty coffee. It's like, basically the British specialty coffee scene is born from Kiwis and Aussies. Like we look to them as like that's what we were trying to emulate, and they're getting that many people. It's an issue. It's a problem.
Yeah. Do you, it might be a bit of a deep one, and feel free to pass on this question. Do you think is there a silver bullet to solve this issue?
There has to be a recognition from the WC and the FCA that the current system for running competitions is not viable long term. Yeah. The WCEs are run on volunteer. No judge I know gets paid. Everyone's giving their time. Everyone who runs those events gives their time. The SCA chapters are events companies. That's all they are. There is ostensibly other things that you're supposed to do, but really you're events companies. Your role is to run the events. And if you have the time to do any community engagement outside of that, more power to you. Like, go for it. Because 3.5 years of me running it destroyed me. I had to do a thing I never thought I'd do, and I walked away.
Yeah.
For my health, my sanity and my health, I had to go. I cannot do this anymore. It is extracting too much, and it trades on what I like to call emotional profit. So you do it, you judge, you are involved in running these competitions because you are doing good. It's for the good of the community. You know, you're helping competitors like you, and you're doing it because you want to be part of that and help. There's no real benefit in saying you're an SCA judge. It's not going to help you get a job. Nothing. You know, so you're doing it for the good of it, really. And there might be a case of some business you can do when you're there, but that's speculative networking. And it trades on that profit. You're taking a profit emotion out of it. But you're also doing emotional work all the time. There's a debit going on. For all you're taking in profit, you're giving debit. You're always doing work. The danger is that we don't notice, and I certainly didn't, when we go into the red.
Yeah.
Commonly called burnout. And unless that changes, unless there's some way of making these chapters run in a way that does not destroy people, we will see chapters blink out like lights across the map one by one.
Yeah.
Because no one's going to want to pick them up. Because they'll see the people that have done them before and what happened to them and go, yeah, this is not for me. I don't want that. And it's tricky. Yeah. It's super tricky. And it has to come from the top. It has to come from the SCN and WCE understanding that there has to be some sort of investment. And we're not saying make all judges professional. We're not saying everyone has to be thinking, but there has to be somebody who is basically paid to run it, or maybe paid to, on the judging side, be that port of call for the arbiter of training and calibration, and some recompense for the people who then disperse that across the judging pool. There has to be a way of recompensing the chapter bodies for their time.
Yeah.
Because they're doing it outside their jobs, and they're luckily, a lot of these people, their jobs are willing to give them the time to do it. There also maybe has to be a recognition amongst the chapters that you don't need to spend that much money on AV. You don't have to. There's a lot of money that doesn't have to be spent, but we spend it because we feel like we have to. Like I think we've all seen pictures of the worlds where there's half empty stands.
Yeah.
You don't need that. You don't need it. Skate like people. Legit, who's gonna put in to apply to host the worlds when you have to spend that much money to do it, and you have to spend it because it's a bidding process,
right?
You know, it needs to travel, it needs to go more places, scale down what it needs to be, because people are watching it online, they're not going to the thing, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, there needs to be a review of how it runs. It's not adapted to not even the post-COVID, but the pre-COVID environment of where we were in terms of how people were viewing these events and what needs to happen. So
yeah,
real talk.
Yeah, real talk. And like from a competitor side, is money a barrier to success for competitors?
Yeah. If you win and not spend a lot of money, you are a Cinderella. You are the aberration. You are the one that the system tries to weed out, and you should be celebrated for making it, because my God, that's a triumph over all the odds. You know?
Yeah.
That you only have to look at the historical finalists and semi-finalists in the worlds. Just go back and look. It's not even. Don't even look at this year, for God's sakes. Just look at it over every year. Yeah. The ones that don't have all the money and all the resources and that make it there are rare.
Yeah.
The sport, money and resources count.
Yeah.
Not everyone can be.
For sure.
Not everyone can be Leicester City, my home team. You know, and strike lightning in a bottle. Not everyone can do that. You have it's time, it's effort, it's money, it's resources, and I think it's a massive barrier to getting involved in competition. And I think that also starts at the cost to enter level.
Right.
It starts
there. So in the UK, most of the competitions are £100 to enter. Sometimes you get £50 rebate if you're an SCA member. Yeah.
Like SCA membership should be to some degree a prerequisite, because if I remember rightly, it links them because you have to have events insurance to run these things properly, really, and so your membership ties you into that insurance, so everything's covered. So it's a legal thing.
Yeah. Interesting.
But you have to have liability insurance, just like running a shop, because you're doing events.
Yeah.
When you run an event, you should have event liability insurance, and if not, then it's usually with the person who is hosting the event. So but there has to be a legal chain and a link there.
Yeah.
Otherwise it gets a bit messy dealing with electricity and hot water and flames and chemicals and stuff, which we are on stage.
Yeah.
But yes, but likewise, there should also be a way just to enter for people who can't afford to enter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but that takes time, and that's the flip side of it. Like,
Yes.
doing regionals takes time, and that's time you might not be able to give.
Yeah, for sure. So, final listener question,
Ooh,
and we're calming down a bit now. What's
All
your
right.
guilty pleasure? Not related to coffee and competitions. Just a bit about you. What's your guilty pleasure?
Don't have any guilty pleasures, they're displeasures, isn't it? I don't know. Just really like riding my bike and reading books and watching rubbish TV.
Yeah, living the good life.
Yeah, trying to get out. I think if there's I do always look forward to Bake Off season. I don't know why. I really like Blown Away as well on Netflix, because competitive glass blowing is a wild thing. Maybe, and it's topical. I like watching Rings of Power at the moment. I read the books every year. I read Silmarillion, Children of Hurin, and Lord of the Rings every year. I've always had a affinity for that sort of like escapism into another fantasy world and reading about it. So it's just a pleasure rather than a guilty one.
Excellent. And finally, what's next for you, Matt? What's going on? What have you got coming up? Anything you're excited about?
Travel bit kicks off again pretty soon. I'm off on Wednesday to Germany, to Frankfurt Coffee Fest, to do Brist Champs and the Latte Art. Yes, that's right. The season has already started. This is one of the crazy problems with judging. It never, ever, ever stops. So if they were going to change anything for how the 2023 competitions are going to be assessed, it's too late because they're already starting.
Yeah.
Then I'm back for a couple of weeks. I'm moving into a new lab, a new space for raw material, which is great.
Exciting.
I say lab. It's a fancy word for a single room.
Does it have?
Oh, mate, I lost you. Oh no. Oh, he's left the meeting. So Will has gone. So it's me. Hi, welcome to the Matt North Show. Oh, sorry, I was just talking about you.
Oh, were you?
No. Where were we?
You're going to Germany to judge
to Germany, and then get back, move the lab, go to Salzburg for the Austrian Championships, and then I'm back for a week, and then I'm off to Colombia for sort of what should have been the yearly trip to our facilities over in Colombia, but it's been put on hold for a couple of years.
Yeah. Wow, packed diary.
Yeah, it's very, very busy. I mean, I are all these questions that you've asked, are they from listeners or are they from you?
So I'd say it's about 50-50. So
Okay.
I wrote sort of a list of very generic questions.
Cool.
And then opened it up and got quite a lot of responses.
Good.
So
do you have anything? I know we're probably pushed for time, but we can edit. It's fine.
Yeah.
Do you have anything specific left that you want to cover or pick brains on for yourself or from any of them from the list? Because we have this opportunity, we may as well do it.
Yeah, I think we covered like everything I wanted to ask you. There was only one question that I skipped over, which was how has the competition changed your life/career? I feel like we touched on it a little bit in different parts.
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah, definitely. It has. I've met an enormous amount of people that I would never have interacted with in the industry, and learned an enormous amount from traveling around Europe judging, like really seeing the different, how homogeneous it is as well. So many, what we see of as specialty coffee is very homogeneous across Europe, really. That you go into lots of places and you'll see, oh, that could be anywhere, that could be anywhere, that could be.
Yeah.
But also just how different it can be in places as well, and just how much each individual country still has its own sort of coffee culture, and you get to see a little bit of that when you go to these places. So it's definitely changed my life in that way. It's given me a broader picture of the coffee industry on the brand side of it, really, on the drinking and consuming side.
Yeah. Great. Like that covers everything that I had written down to talk about.
Nice.
And nothing else has popped up. Was there anything you wanted to say that didn't get brought up, or anything else?
No, I mean, I think we covered all the major topics. I think they're important. I think people will probably ask, how do you get better? Like, the problem with asking a judge for advice is that we can't coach.
Yeah.
And because if we coach, we end up disqualifying ourselves technically from judging that competition.
Yeah.
There's significant grey area where you can just give things that are on the edge of coaching, and most judges will be quite good at catching themselves to do it. It's why we have the sort of the jokey acronym of RTFR, which is read the rules, because on the whole, that's what we use as our Bible for judging too.
Yeah.
So that's what you should use as a competitor for your Bible for how to win points and what to do, because the vast majority of the answers you're looking for are in there. It just takes time to understand them. Understanding the rules makes you better at being a judge and a competitor. But no, I think most of it's being covered. It's got issues, hasn't it? It's got issues.
It's not simple. It's not black and white.
No, and I hope that you've got a little bit of an insight to how the things that we think about as judges, like we do genuinely, like, I've DQ'd people. I hate it.
Yeah.
Some of my best friends I DQ'd. I hate it. And if anyone gets DQ'd, they should know, or even has a 0 put in the thing, they should know that there is a part of you dies inside as a judge when you see that happen, because you know you're going to have to do that. When you see an underpouring brewers, when you see something that shouldn't be done, when you see someone get handed something as a coach, for a thing, when you see, somebody use the 3 electrical devices, when you see this, something so clear in the rules, and you're attuned to it because that's what you're doing, you watch it and you just see it, and you kind of just go, and you have to wear a poker face, and know that the minute that you get off, you just clock eyes with another judge or with the rep, and they've seen it and they know you've seen it, so everyone's all communicating. And you walk off and you try, and the minute you're not around people who can see, like the public or anyone, like the hand closed, or you're like, God. And it's just a sense of, I know what I've got to do. And it sucks. Like the picture that does the rounds of me with the bottle of with the glass of water in the northern heat. That was a tainted water jug. Because you're not allowed to flavor the water when you serve it in barista. So it has to be plain water. Judges are tasting water and they're like going, this is flavored. What's going on? So like the correct thing to do there, being involved, and I was on the judging panel, like, right, this is going to be probably a DQ, but we have to find out why. We cannot just do it. Like, what happens here? Because if you don't find out why, I think this ties into the assassin thing a little bit. If you don't find out why, you just go, blah, blah, blah. No, then you're doing a disservice. You're not doing your due diligence in judging. Yeah. And it turns out, and we'd had it before in Brewer's Cup. Turns out I tasted the water. He had the cans of water. He's like, oh, that's fine. So what's weird? The water's, you've served unflavored water, so I don't see what the problem is. Grab the Chemex, and they've used a fragranced washing up liquid. So you can smell it in there. You're like, well, that's your problem. It's picked up the detergent from the inside of the thing, and then it's flavored the water. But that led to a picture, which became a meme, and it led to, and that's all from the determination to understand why we're going to have to do this thing that we don't want to do.
Yeah.
Like Steinschweiger, bless, when Aaron brought that A board out, the minute that hit the stage, even before in setup, I was like, and going to find the rules, finding the rule, understanding what we have to do, waiting to see if it got taken off. Because if he takes it off stage, then before he starts, then it's okay. You're like, he left it on. Okay, let's enjoy the presentation. Give it the marks it deserves.
Yeah,
and then we'll assess it afterwards. So, yeah, I think maybe that's the thing I want to leave with. Like we didn't say, it's like nobody wants to give bad scores. Everyone wants to reward the presentation and the coffee that we see for as good as it can be possibly be.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to do that. We want to find 5s and 6s. We want to have great coffee served to us and be willing to give those high marks.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to give 1s and 2s. Nobody wants to DQ people or give 0s without thought or without really understanding the weight of it. You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, if people don't break the rules, then I don't have to give DQs. Just saying.
Yeah, no, big take-home note for any future competitors listening. Just don't break the rules.
Don't make me DQ you. I don't like it. I really don't like it. I don't want to have to keep doing it. I have to do it really on the regular. It's disappointing.
Yeah. Matt, thank you so much for taking all this time to chat with me.
It's all good,
It's been great.
Pleasure. Have a good one. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing all your other guests and what this podcast becomes.
Excellent. I'll catch you soon.
Cheers, dude. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, thanks for listening to this week's episode of Hello Judges. Some great chat with Matt North, covering a lot of ground from the judges' side of the table. And next week, my guest is Paul Ross from Special Guests Coffee. Make sure you hit subscribe to stay up to date with new episodes. Follow us on @Taylor's Discovery on Instagram, Taylor's Discovery on YouTube, and Hello Judges Podcast on all of the usual podcast platforms. It's been an absolute pleasure to share this podcast with you today. Thank you. Time.